All right, guys. I've been meaning to get videos out sooner, and I've promised a bunch of people that I was going to because recently a lot of you have been sending me messages asking for this, that, and the other. So I'm gonna do a few videos here. One that I've been hearing a lot is report reading, which I feel like I did a report reading video before. So there's that, but I'm going to look. Okay, so what have we got here? That was just a little clear. So in this one, we sent Archer there. When I do an initial scout report, I basically look at the troop composition, but then I will go in, which is Robin LT. There was one of these guys here that was a really good one. Anyway, I'll look and I see what the troop composition is, and that's what I decide what to send. Or maybe I don't send anything, because sometimes I do that as well. And then always look at the buff. The buff's always going to be a little bit higher than what you see because of duty officers and stuff like that. But I'm going down to this one because one of my teammates took a bunch of defenses, and it was really positive. And then I found this player, and this is what broke the camel's back. At this point, we were up 25K, and we just kept pushing it. So in this one, this was the first hit done on this keep. So this is an intact keep, and I saw Queen Boudica, which means at a minimum they're doing the T1 defense concept, and Oda, which tells me that she's buffing all troops HP, and it's heavy on the ground side. And then I saw all the siege, and if you've got a good siege, solo or not, I mean, if you've got a really good siege, like 3,500 or better, siege solo them, because that's what I did here. I didn't send anyone with me. This was just a siege solo. And, I mean, that's massive points, you know, when I consider that's like 8 times more T14s than I have in my March. So, looked at this keep, no reinforcement. And it was really good. I killed everything down to the T12s. So, but that's what you're going to look for. And you break down a keep as to like what you can send. You know, it's most cases, first thing you're going to do is send the siege to clear their siege. So that way you can send the archer to clear their horses. And then you can simply ground. If you've got a big team, do a big ground rally and you can walk right through. So on this one, I looked at what I took, and then I'm like, okay, well, there's still T12, T11. So I went, and when you are playing with, you know, a team with teammates that are smaller than you, like lots of times you're going to be responsible for like taking solo shots like this and getting good positive points. And then for me, like I quit at that point because it was billed as a trap, I believe. So I took the positive points and then I left it. So in this one, clear the 12s, the 11s, the 10s, the 9s, down to the 8s. So that's a pretty good hit right there. But we'll just go down. I'm pretty sure it was a T1 defense. 1.7 billion horses. So the next one, I sent again siege. I thought I did. And here we look at what's left. Cleared the 6s. Cleared the 5s. Once you get past the 5s, like, you can pretty much be sure that you cleared the... Well, they had quite a few T3s. And that saved them. So I think in this, it's just the mass. Oh, and there was a rain of, what was it? Probably siege. That's what I would send if I saw my buddy getting hailed by... No, he sent ground. Okay, well... If anything besides siege, maybe calf, but if someone's getting sieged heavily, like, I would send siege. And in that one, you got down to 954, so that one became close. Let's see, did I hit? I did not hit, but I started hitting the big guy. And the rally was not good. But later in the battle, I started hitting him with solo siege, and it was bad at first, but then it got better. So let's look at these defenses. So one of my players, Patrick, he's a strong player. This one was really good because I think it was just him and me. And this was a weaker opponent, so I'm not going to get into it too much. I mean, it was a great win for us. But this guy, this was great. Cod's a smaller player, but I think he took about 8 rallies, or maybe 10. And they send everything. They send a 4-pack. Tried lots of things, but at the end of the day, I mean, he had some rains. I mean, they weren't necessarily most. This new ground combo, I really do like this. I mean, I know everyone loves Narcissus because he's the strongest, he's the best. But if you're a player like me that's going to use your ground for rallies, attacking, and for reinforcing, like, this combo is going to be really hard to beat because they sent ground on that one. They sent Cav at this reinforcement twice, and it ate it, which, again, it weren't the very, very best buffs I've ever seen in the world, but it was a smaller player. I think their biggest player was K40 or K41. But yeah, here was a Cav, and it ate it. I left that same march in the whole time. Because they cleared his calves early, and then I think their thought process was that once the calves are gone, it's going to be easy. Well, if you've got a solid ground reinforcement, you'll eat up those calf rallies. And again, like I say, it wasn't the strongest opponent. They weren't bad by any means, but they weren't the strongest. So, and then after the fact, this is where the reports come in. So for him, he'll look at this and see, okay, what troops did what. He doesn't have a lot of wounded, so realistically, my ground probably did a majority of the killing, which that brings up a really interesting point. Because in one of my other videos, you know what, I'm not even going to get into that. I mean, it seems weird to me that he's got ground and I've got ground. And he didn't do as much killing. Well, he did a fair amount there with the 13s. But not very much with the 12s. It just makes you really wonder do the speed books really not work? Because my ground march has ground troop speed on it, and I did have 15s, so that makes a difference too. But my 12s killed a lot as well. So you kind of sit there and wonder, is it yes, is it no? More testing is needed, that's for sure. Well, yeah, so that's the one thing you want to look at, and when you're looking at reports. Like, you need to look at everything. If you're looking at it from a defensive standpoint, you're going to look at what did the killing and what died. In this case, what did they send? Archer. Yeah, so the calves were already cleared, so the archers went straight to hitting Archer, which was not a horrible idea because I think the train of thought here was, well, once the archers are gone, then it's just ground and siege, and then we can calve. So it was smart, but also the calf couldn't get through the ground. So with that being said, but that's what you want to look at. You're going to look at everything that died, everything that killed. Because even if it's a layer that does not get any kills, but is dying, it's slowing it down. So like here you can see the massive amount of calves had slowed down the rally, and the T1 mounted actually killed 964,000. And these weren't huge rallies, so I'm going to tell you right now, that isn't the layers. It's not the layers at all. So, and that's the thing. Like I say, when you're doing, when you're talking about reading reports, and I always say that's the most important skill to have. And I'm just trying to see if I can find a scout report. Yeah, so this guy, he's got 1.3 billion. And then you look and pretty much it looks like all the high tier siege is gone. So clearly you wouldn't want to hit that with siege because there's no points to be had. You might get the archers, but in my opinion, you're better off with mid-tier siege if you want to kill archers, like T11 down to T8 is going to kill the archers more efficiently from what I've seen. So with this, I mean, if it's me, what would I do? I'm going to send... Oh, he doesn't have a lot of calves either. Oh, yeah, he's got 12s. So, yeah, I would have sent an archer. Depending on... Okay, so he's got ground, archer, cav. Yeah, so you could probably send an archer and be all right there. I don't know if I did. I did not. And this one I sent siege, which was still positive. But that's what you want to look for. You're going to look for, like, what can I easily kill? What do I need to take away from his keep to accomplish this? And that's, what you do. And here's a really good siege. And I'm just going to guess that he probably had a lot of high-tier siege. Oh, wow, that cleared all his siege and started doing a lot of killing to his archers, too. So, yeah, with this one, he had a rain. But, you're going to want to get rid of the siege because you get rid of the siege and your archer's going to do a whole lot more. So, with that being said, I clear the siege. I kind of feel like the next one wasn't real great. Actually, I think I saved the next one for Patrick. But like I say, that's what you want to look for. You want to look for, what you need to take away to make it positive. And that's the first step. Usually your first step is going to be against a bigger city that's built, the first step is going to be doing the clearing out the siege. And then that leaves way for the archers to decimate their cav. So, and I think we hit this one, like later on. And I think it was really good. I think this was it right here. Oh, nope, that was in a building. Robin, so we hit him and took 1.9 with Archer. And then this one was bad. This one was not great. Well, it was positive yet, so that's nice. And then this one was a really nice 2.1 bill. I mean, for what we're sending, we're sending just maybe a touch over 20 million. That's not a lot of troops, not really. And then I think the last one probably was a walkthrough. And we sent Archer again. He was a T1 trap all day long. Like, maybe not necessarily a trap, but he was T1 heavy, because that was 3 Archer rallies. But yeah, that's what you want to look for. Look for, what do I need to take away for this to be good, or to zero him. Usually 9 times out of 10, it's getting rid of the siege so you can send your arch. Now, where your struggle is, if you don't have a good siege march or a good siege rally in your alliance, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But if you've got high enough archer buffs and you can fill a good-sized rally, you may be able to send the archer and clear enough of the siege, or clear enough of the cav, that you can then send ground or whatever and work it from that way and take the cav first. But that's what you need to look for. Like, if you're attacking, which you either have players in your team that are good at reading reports, or else they just post a report and then you look through it real quick. I'll usually look at the top, and then once I get down to the T12s, I'll go all the way down to the bottom and see if it is a trap or a T1 defense concept anyway. And in this case, it is. And then there's a few ways to deal with that, because if you can send a good enough and a big enough archer rally, you can just set a rally on those traps and clear them. These guys actually sat and took rallies, which kind of surprised me. But we're a smaller alliance, but we've got a lot of power up on top, so we can inflict a lot of damage. So I think people underestimate us in that aspect, which is really quite nice. But defensively, that's what you want to look for. You want to look at everything as far as what is doing the killing, what is not doing any killing, but it is engaging because those troops are dying. That means it's tying up the troops. So with that, that's what you really need to look for. And that's how I taught myself the game, was through reports. Well, let me just go to one and see if that's in a building. I want one that COD was defending. So we go in and look. First, so they sent archers, which that's a good one to gauge off of. And it is rained, so that makes a difference. But eventually, yeah, you're going to get to, okay, so they killed range versus ranged. And then we look, the ground engaged. Oh, yeah, his cav was all gone. Yep. But that's what you need to look at. So you're going to look at this and be like, okay, well, the T1 ground, even though it's just T1, there's 94 million there, well, 96 with the ones that died. So it's they're engaging as well and tying up. And they're actually killing a fair amount of troops, 1.4. And then even the T1 sieges, so that tells me that they got tied up, and even the siege was getting some hits before the ground destroyed everything. So that's what you want to look at. Look at everything. Look at what troops of yours did the killing, and also which died. And then that's telling you in that scenario which tier and which troop is doing the work. So I would say, between ranged and ground, did most of the work in this one, which the T8 all got cleared. But it's kind of weird because T7 was completely untouched. T9 had some killed. Let's see if the T10, nothing. on the Archer. So it's kind of weird. But let's see. Maybe they sent, because I'm seeing a lot more mixed rallies recently. But this is so far is like all a straight Archer. It is all straight Archer. So it's. But then again, like reinforcement does change the dynamics of things, and I'm gonna continue doing some research on that. I'm not even gonna say what it is, but I'm gonna test tomorrow and see. So let's see with this one. That was a solo. I don't know why. Unless you've got great buffs, you probably should not be doing solos against a keep that's reinforced. That's just not very smart. 1.4. So let's look at this one and see. I mean, in this case, the archers, I mean, it cleared all the season and started killing archers. Like, there's no specific rhyme or reason to that. We know what happened there. But the T-14 ground killed about 300,000. Mounted, there wasn't very much. So in this case, like, I would say the ground is what stopped them. Mixture of the ground and the cav. It's just like interesting to look at this because you're like, okay, so what really does get there first? I mean, if you look at tier specific, it looks like the T12 ground kills more than the T12 mounted. But that's a part of the game that, like, I understand there's been players that have kind of cracked the code, and that's cool. But I always still look because I'm still trying to, like, figure out the dynamic and exactly, like, what happens when you send what. But every hit's different because every keep's going to be different, and what they have left is going to be different. So it's always going to be it's always kind of a mystery. But that's basically it. Like, a lot of people are asking, and like they think there's some hidden secret to report rating. But I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, like this was a solo shot, and that's really all you need to look at to figure out what's going on. Is look like what troops. Well, this was a siege, so that one's kind of a little difficult to work on. But Archer, so everyone's more familiar with Archer because usually it's your highest march as far as buffs, and then you can see the dynamic here. So killed the 15s, and then the 14s. The 14s, it only cleared the top tier, which they were T15s, so that's probably why the points were good. And then he was reigned with Archer and ground, which certainly didn't hurt. But you know, with all this cav and you know, they're all engaging, so they're gonna tie up the archers. So, but that's what you need to look at. Look at what died, what did not die, and then I like to look towards the bottom too. So here, you know, you got some 8s randomly, you know, dying. But that's what you want to look for. Look for what troops of yours are doing the killing, but then also look at what troops of yours are not killing or killing very little, but dying, and that will tell you that, okay, well, these troops are engaging. So like here, clearly the T1 ground, again, which a lot of people don't, you know, and even the T1 mounted, like, killed 500,000. But that's one thing that, you know, a lot of people were set that, oh, it's either it's just cav or it's just ground or it's whatever. But with the T1 defense, there's more dynamic to it. And I think, I mean, for me, I've built all these lower tiers, not high like a lot of players. I'm trying to do a 500 million base on all the T1s, and then I basically just cut it in half, and that's my number for the tier 2. So I try to get 250 million on each T2 and 125 million on each T3 is what I'm doing. But that's what you look for. Look for what troops of yours did the killing, what troops of yours did not kill but died, because it means they're engaging, they're tying up the rally. And then when you're looking at a report for if you want to hit someone, then that's what you're going to look for is what troops they have that you need to remove, number one, and then number two, that you know you can remove and be positive points. So, and that's really report reading. Like, a lot of people overcomplicate it, and I'm like, it's really simple. It's exactly what it's called. Report reading of the report. And as long as you do that and you just follow this simple guideline, if you're scouting, you're reading the report, the player you want to hit, look for what needs to be removed and look for what you know you can get easy points off of. Real simple, right? And then you're basically like dissecting the keep troop by troop until you get to a point where you can clear it. And then defensively, like I say, you just look for what does the killing or what does not do the killing but is dying. And in that case, you know what is tying up and engaging in those types of rallies. So I mean, it is really simple. Like, a lot of people, like I say, I feel like a lot of players overcomplicate it, and it doesn't need to be like that. And since I'm here and I have done a little bit of research here on the new general, like every time a new general comes out, I will evaluate them right away. And part of it is if it's a benefit and it's a general that I'd be able to use pretty on the cheap and fast, then I'll do it. So I was running Franz Joseph as the assistant to Ragnar, and James Cook came out, and I always do like the full on the specialties, and then the main skill, and then the covenant to come up with a final answer as a assistant, completely done. So I took James Cook, and I had Franz Joseph, and he was soulbound. So at first I told my teammates, I said, I'm not going to do, because I'm coming to the end of like building generals nonstop. And I think at some point we do have to do that, because you have new generals coming every 2 weeks. And you're just going to constantly be building generals. And I think, we're not playing the way we want to play. We're playing the way Evony, we're doing what Evony wants us to do. We're just constantly building generals. So what I did for the free and cheap part of this discussion is I unbound Franz and got some binding souls there. And then I dismissed Franz because I really didn't have much into him. And I got 300 binding souls back. So then I just bound James Cook, which right now he's pretty much equal, but he's 4% lower on the march size. But I haven't got any of his covenant done yet. So once I get the covenant done, he will be significantly better. When you look at the numbers, Franz was 125 attack. James Cook was 150. This is just based on the skills, the specialties, the covenant. Like, that's the total attack that they get. Cook was 5% higher on HP. He was lower on defense, but he's higher on march size. I believe he is 18%. So I'm going to get a bigger march size. I'm going to get 25% more attack, which is equal to a skill book, which neither Franz nor Cook can take the attack skill book. So I wasn't losing anything there. But that's just something to keep in mind is James Cook cannot take the attack skill book for archers. But even so with that, he's still 25% higher than Franz. So I'm not losing anything, and I'm gaining that 25%. So that being said, for me, it was a no-brainer. And then just because everyone that's watching is going to say, oh, well, yeah, but what about as a main? For me, Sydney is still... It looks close because the attack... James Cook has a 10% higher total attack and a little bit higher HP. But Sydney has much better attributes. Much better. It's not even really close. I mean, like a lot of people would be like, oh, well, it's only 5-point difference. It's like, yeah, 5 points is a big difference because usually the higher the number starts out at, the higher it raises too. So it's by the time it's all said and done, it's going to be pretty significant. And then the march size, when you've got, let me just go into him. When you've got 18% for the new guy, which is what it is, it's good. 18% is not bad at all. But when you've got 32% for Sydney, like that's a massive, massive difference. So let me just go James Cook. Yeah, so I mean, and a lot of people ask, well, why do you have siege attack on there? Because you can't take the attack book. For me, the relevant books are going to be ranged HP, ranged defense, march size. I added march range bonus. And then the siege attack, because my layers are thicker. And against certain opponents, I will see that my siege and my archer march is actually killing a fair amount. So that's why I stuck the siege attack book, because there's nothing else relevant that I could really put on him. So just a FYI. Kind of like my siege generals. Like my siege generals, I put a mounted attack, usually mounted attack or mounted HP, because I'll stick in some T14, T13 horses, higher tiers like 100,000, just to try to protect the siege a little bit and get more kills out of my siege. But that's my opinion on him. I don't think he's the best. I think he's probably the second best main in the game. Really close to Sigard but yeah, he is one of the best as far as the main goes. But with Sydney's 32% march size, that's just too much to overcome when you're at 18%, so you're almost half of what Sydney is. But as far as assistants go, for me anyway, because I run with Ragnar yet, for me, I would say he's the best assistant I can have with Ragnar. But I just figured I'd throw that in as a little bonus, food for thought. While I'm here, I should add. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to go back and be like, oh, okay, well, I've got this new general. Don't forget to add the fifth specialty on if you have it. Because I've done that a lot, and I'm like, I don't understand why the number is not right. And lots of times when I do that and I'm not getting what I thought I'd get, it's because I didn't add that fifth specialty, or else I left the dragon on the original general that I switched from. And yeah, so don't forget to do that stuff, especially if you do this right before battle and you don't test it. But that's my thought on that. I may not have got real deep into report reading, but also my train of thought is, like I said towards the end, is it's really simple and people overcomplicate it. But honestly, the reason I think people overcomplicate it is because they just want an answer and they don't want to learn the game. because so many people send me reports. Well, what did I do wrong, or how could this be better? And I think a lot of people just want the answer given to them, rather than learning the game the right way. Because if you're always given answers, you're never going to learn the game, and you're always going to need someone to tell you what to fix. And I mean, that's not necessarily a horrible thing, but what if your true and tried friend that's helped you throughout the whole game quits the game or leaves the game or whatever? Well, then you got to find someone else. And, I think a lot of players, especially like content providers, like that's kind of my deal. And I tell my teammates all the time I tell them, you're never going to learn the game if I just give you the answer without any explanation and without testing you. Like if I'm not testing you or I'm not putting you on the spot, that's the only way I know if you know. Because you can say, oh, yeah. But that doesn't cut it. Don't just get all your answers. Don't just get all your info from YouTube. You need to learn the game. You need to like do this stuff. And that's why I explain it and break stuff down the way I do, is so that you can learn to do that. And pretty soon you don't have to message me as much. And when you are messaging me, it's because you're saying, hey, Tim, check out this defense or check out this attack. But yeah, take the time, learn the game. Don't always ask people which general is good. Like click on it first and like look through it. And then if you still have a question, then hit someone up and be like, this general does this, and this. It seems like it's better, but is it for sure? That's completely fine, but you're never going to be really good at the game if you don't learn it. And I've got lots of examples of people that, they never learned the game. They never had really great buffs. They never had really great debuffs. And then they just build out troops, and their defense did become better. But that's because of the mass amount of troops. But when you're a big city like that, all it's going to take is a strong alliance with good siege rallies, and they'll just rally you 3, 4, 5 times, and shortly after that, you're going to fall apart pretty quick. So that's my take on this subject. Report reading, I mean, in my opinion, it's a lot more basic than people think it is. People overcomplicate it, and it really isn't complicated. It's pretty simple. But I hope this video helps. I hope it leads you on the way to reading reports and dissecting things and evaluating things for yourself. But with that, I'm going to call this a video.